Hey, welcome back to How to Barbecue Right. I'm Malcolm Reed. Check it out, y'all. I have got a regular old pork loin today. Everybody's seen these. We've all cooked them. I found this one at Kroger. They had them on sale for $1.99 a pound. This one weighed 5 pounds, so that was 10 bucks. And it's gonna feed a lot of people. And instead of just doing a regular old pork loin recipe today, I'm gonna do something a little special. It's gonna be a Cajun pork loin sandwich. I'm gonna show you what I do to turn this regular old pork loin into a really good piece of meat. It's gonna feed a lot of people. Let's get to cooking. And I wanna talk a little bit about this pork loin. Now you'll see, when I took this one out of the package, it had this nice fat cap on it. There wasn't any silver skin, and I thought to myself, hey, I'm gonna leave this fat on today because I know fat is flavor. We're gonna cook it at a little bit higher temp so it's gonna render down, and that's gonna give me a nice little crust on the outside to go with that lean pork that's underneath. But to help that fat render a little bit, I'm gonna take a knife and I'm just gonna make some score marks in it, a lot like we would on the fat cap of a pork butt. And I'm just spacing these cuts out, maybe about 1 inch. Not going deep into the meat, just right through that fat layer that's on top. It's gonna help it as it cooks to open up a little bit, let it get a head start rendering where those slits are. Some flavor is gonna get down in there from the seasoning, and it's gonna be really good. Now once you get slits made in one direction, go ahead and turn your pan and do the same thing back down the other side. Just keep a nice little angle going, about 1 inch apart, not too deep. And once we get our score pattern worked out, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over. And this is where I'm gonna start with my flavor. First thing I'm gonna do is add a little binder to it. Today, I'm using a Creole mustard. Now I picked this Creole mustard to go along with kind of those Louisiana flavors. I like the sharpness of it. I really like the graininess of it. It gives the pork some texture, and mustard goes great with pork. You can use it all the time. You see me do it on pork butts with just plain yellow mustard. I'm just using my hand and rubbing this Creole mustard in. Now for our seasoning, I've got some of my King Craw. You could use whatever Cajun season you like. I'm getting a pretty good dose of it because it can take it. Now, I've been cooking pork loins for a long time. A lot of times we'll cut them up into steaks, use them for all different kind of ways. But this one's gonna be extra special because I'm jazzing it up with all these Louisiana flavors. So the bottom side is well seasoned. Now it's time to work on the top. I'm gonna do the same thing. We'll put down a line or so of this Creole mustard. Let it get in those cracks, those score marks, down the edges, of course. So I'm going a little heavier than I normally would with a binder, but this Creole mustard with the graininess of it is gonna really give it some nice texture as it cooks down. It's gonna give that rub something to stick to. We're going right back with our Cajun King Craw Seasoning right over the top. Good dose, but I'll make sure I get the sides really well down. Now we're getting somewhere. Now I got the outside looking good. The seasoning's sticking to it. I can see the coarseness of that mustard. We're ready to put some moisture and some flavor on the inside. Now I've got a Cajun Injection I've been working on. If you wanted to buy one from the store, get you one of those Tony's Creole Butters. You could use whatever you like. I'm just gonna go down through the top about halfway, and as I pull out, I'm gonna squeeze down a little. Let it pop out. Move over about 1 inch and do the same thing. Pull it out, squeeze it in. We're gonna pump it up. And I'm gonna put as much of this injection as it'll take. If it'll hold 2 cups, it's gonna get 2 cups. Pork loin's really neutral. It's a bland piece of meat, doesn't have a lot of interior fat, so we're putting all those flavors in it with the seasonings on the outside, leaving that fat cap on, and pumping it full of goodness. It's done added, I know, another pound of this pork loin. It started out 5 pounds. Heck, we might have it up to 6.5. That's gonna feed a lot of hungry friends right there. I have just about put 16 ounces in this pork loin. I know it's got some flavor. You'll see it's got a little moisture on top. I'm okay with that. What I'm actually gonna do is take my hand, just gently pat it in. I don't want it puddling on the top, but I don't care if it's a little moist, a little wet. Kind of like that. So I know this doesn't look anything like that regular old pork loin we started with. I cross-cut those hatches in it so the fat would open up so it could render. Smothered it with some of that Creole mustard. Hit it with the King Craw. We got flavor on the outside. Tons of it. Then we shot it up with 16 ounces of injection. All we need is some pecan smoke. Get this dude up to temp. It's gonna be time to build some sandwiches. Let's get it on the pit. So I've got my Traeger running here, 275 degrees. I wanna cook it a little bit hotter than normal so that fat can render, so that cap can get crispy. Also gonna hit a little bit extra Cajun seasoning right over the top where I touched it. I don't want any fingerprints. I ain't scared to season some meat. That's gonna dry out. It's gonna make a nice little crust. That fat's gonna melt. It's gonna be juicy. I can't wait to try this one. Let's get the lid closed. So while the pork loin's over in the pecan smoke getting happy, I'm gonna go ahead and put together my coleslaw I'm using for the sandwich. I'm starting with 1 bag of a coleslaw mix. It's just shredded cabbage and carrots. Then I took a sweet onion and sliced it super thin. into little bitty half circles. Now this is what makes this slaw so good. I came up with this creamy Creole dressing that's going right on top. Had to have some of that blue plate Louisiana mayonnaise, but I added that same Creole mustard that we put on the outside. It's got some sugar in it to sweeten it up, a little red wine vinegar, and some salt and pepper. It's going right on top. Just get the slaw coated. Now I just want to put some plastic wrap over it. Let it sit in the refrigerator, let everything get tender, let it get happy. Pork loin will be done in a couple hours too. It's gonna be right on time. And before I forget, I want to put an internal probe in this pork loin because you don't want to mess one of these up. You could easily dry them out by overshooting the temp. So what I'm doing, I'm using one of my shorter ThermalWorks probes. I'm gonna go dead center. I want to go in about halfway. And right now we're still setting, about 77, 78 degrees. It hadn't been on long, but this lets me watch it. You can hear it beeping. Y'all know the drill now. That means we are done. Check that out. We got that nice crust on top. We done rendered down some of that little fat cap we had. I stopped it at 135 because I know it's gonna carry over. So I got the pork loin over here on the cutting board, and I'm just gonna let it hang out. It needs at least 15 minutes. You can even go 20 or 30 minutes if you wanted to. But what that does, it lets that carryover happen, and it's gonna be just the right temperature, about 142, 143, and that's where you wanna eat pork loin. And I got to try a little bit of this crispy fat. Y'all didn't see that? That fat's good, y'all. All right, y'all, it's been 20 minutes. That's about as long as I can stand. It's time for my favorite part of the day. That's gonna be cutting up this pork loin, building a big old sandwich. Let's see how we did. I'm gonna try to keep these slices on the thin side because my thinking is I wanna stack it up on the sandwich. Oh, that's beautiful. And build this monstrous jumbo Cajun pork loin sandwich. So if I keep it thin, if I could put it on a slicer, it'd be real great. Look at that juice oozing out. I mean, it's got a beautiful color on it, a little bit of a smoke ring. I got that little rim of almost crackling-y, crisp pork fat on top. Before I get too far, I'm going to make sure it is Fat Boy approved. Let's check that out. It's tender. Oh, son. Ooh. Yes, sir. I'm onto something with this. I'm keeping it thin to win. The flavor was phenomenal. I get the spiciness, but it's got this little crunch on top from where that fat cap crisped up. A lot of times I'll trim that off, but on this one I wanted to try it different, see if it would get it crispy by cooking it at 275, and it did the job. But now that I got it cut up, let me show you how we're gonna take it to that next level and turn it into a big old sandwich. So I got some of these jumbo burger buns, and I just popped them under the broiler for a few minutes to toast them so they don't get soggy. I'm gonna start up with some Louisiana, New Orleans own blue plate mayonnaise. Y'all know I like the blue plate. Just get you a knife and kind of swirl it on. And then come on with some of these spicy garlic pickles. They got a little sweetness to them to offset that heat. And now, let's put on the star of the show, some of this pork loin. I'm thinking we're gonna go, I don't know, what do y'all think? 4? That was thin. Let's go 5 of one of those crunchy pieces. Right there. Now that's a good start on the sandwich. Now I've got this creamy Creole Mustard Slaw that I had in the refrigerator. You can see the grains of that mustard in it. It's gonna have a little pop itself, but it's not hot. Put that top bun action on. Now would you look at that? That's what I call a Cajun pork loin sandwich right there. That's a thing. It's almost too pretty to eat, but I'm going to. I think I'm gonna cut it in half. We'll do the OTV open up. Y'all can see what that double stack looks like. Look at that. It's bite time, y'all. Oh, this is the best part. $20. That's $20 sandwich all day long. Little housekeeping. Gotta clean it up in just a second. Really wanting to go back in. All right, so I'm telling y'all, I took this $10 pork loin, turned it into at least a $20 sandwich, and what do y'all think? I could probably make at least 8 big sandwiches out of this, so it's gonna feed a crowd of people. We go to deer camp, I'm definitely cooking this one for the guys, and hey, it's easy to do. You had the injection to get its flavor on the inside, the Creole mustard with the Cajun seasoning on the outside. Took about 2 hours on the pit. Then I took it off, let it rest for about 15, 20 minutes, sliced it up thin, and built this big old sandwich. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me here today at HowToBBQRight. Y'all gotta give this pork loin a try. It's a winner. Like what we're doing, subscribe to that channel. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Y'all know the deal. The main thing is, Shell and I are gonna sit down, talk about this Cajun pork sandwich recipe, all the other delicious stuff we've been cooking on our weekly podcast. Y'all give that a listen too. We'll see you next time. It's time to go to work. I couldn't wait to wrap that one up. One bite just wasn't enough of this. Dang, that's a big boy sandwich.